Hi, everyone. This is Rico Figliolini with the Capitalist Sage and my co-host, Karl Barham. Hey, Karl, how are you?
I'm doing good, Rico. How you doing?
Good, good. Working from home like everyone else. I have my cat in the background, so if you hear the meows, this is from the cat. But the Capitalist Sage is on as usual. We have a great guest today. I'm going to let Karl introduce him. Before we get to that, though, I do want to talk about our sponsor for the family podcast, and that's Hargrave Fiber. They've been a great sponsor of ours, a supporter of Peachtree Corners magazine that I produce. Hargrave Fiber is big in the Southeast, certainly big here in the metro area in South Georgia. They handle all the fiber optics for a lot of major companies and small businesses. So I've gotten to know them a little better. They are so involved in the communities that they go into. They are not your cable guy. So if you're looking for a fiber cable company to help you with your business connections and provide support like you need to be able to do the teleworking that we're all doing or to work from, you know, the main office as we all go back into reopening, they're the people to talk to. Hoggrayfiber.com. I'll leave that with you. And Karl, why don't you take us into our guest today?
Absolutely. Well, today I'm so honored to have Frank Cannon, an associate with Collier International Atlanta office, here to talk about real estate strategies for small businesses that are navigating and dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic that's hitting so many businesses. We all know that the businesses have been hit hard, especially small businesses. And they were forced to close in many cases all across the country. And they have to still deal with these bills that are coming in, including bills from landlords, bills from suppliers, bills from utilities. And so today we wanted to talk about some ways to approach understanding the landlord side of things, understanding the tenant side, and have Frank share some strategies and things that can help people work together and partner so we all get through this successfully. Hey, Frank, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Karl. Glad to be with y'all today.
Oh, this is fabulous. Well, let's start off by just, tell us a little bit about yourself and what made you get into real estate, commercial real estate in particular.
Like I said, my name's Frank with Colliers. We're in Midtown Atlanta. We're a full service commercial real estate firm. We help owners, occupiers, investors of real estate. And for me specifically, I help occupiers of real estate, office tenants with their whole real estate footprint, whether that's they own a building, whether they lease two offices in Atlanta and Buckhead, or if they have a portfolio across the United States. And right now, what we are doing is helping clients with rent deferrals, rent forbearance, renegotiating their leases as this is as chaotic as it is, it's a very opportunistic time for companies to revisit what the real estate footprint looks like and how they can optimize that going forward in a post COVID-19 world.
So I'm going to jump in with the first thing just to kind of ground everybody that's looking at this. What have you been hearing the impact has been on landlords and tenants? Let's start with hearing from your tenants that you represent. What are some of the things that they're dealing with and making decisions? And then we'll talk about things from the tenant standpoint that may have to deal with landlords.
So the initial sentiment for most tenants, most companies is with like everyone else, a slowdown. Everyone has pulled back for companies and they budgeted sales for May, for June, and simply some of that's not going to happen. And the sentiment for landlords is as a ripple effect is, well, tenants may make a quarter or half of their May or June rent as their sales slow down. And overall, it is, what can we do to solve this rent problem and solve this revenue problem and work together as a landlord and a tenant to ensure we all come out of this together. Um, Communication has been great for a lot of tenants and landlords because at the end of the day, it's we're on the same boat and we're working to figure out how to best get out of this together.
Yeah, and that's an important thing. not only on the pandemic health side, you've seen the theme that we'll get through this together, everyone. I think it's really important when you think about landlords and tenant. So let's say I'm an operator of a retail shop in a shopping center, um, and I know that I may have the ability to pay this month's rent, but I'm really concerned about paying the other expenses, maybe trying to keep some employees on, maybe being able to fund opening up again. Um, what are some of the things that I should be thinking about just as everything is closed down, I should be doing immediately?
So number one, right away, is have that conversation with your landlord. Um, they, again, like I said, they're willing to work with you, and you just kind of need to tell them, this is what's going on. I've applied for stimulus. I have enough funds to keep my staff, and here's where I was pre-COVID. Here's where I am now. And your landlord, they make it easy on them. Let them know you're working hard and what you need to keep your boat floating. Maybe that's May and June. I'm gonna need some help. I'll repay it back by the end of next year. You know, on the other hand, if your lease is coming up soon, the last thing your landlord wants you to do is leave because no one's going to fill that spot given all the uncertainty. So there could be talk to your real estate advisor, talk to your legal counsel. Feel free to give us a call. Hey, what can we have right here to make sure that we survive 3, 4 rough months and we can continue this partnership as the best pizza place in your shopping center, for example.
What are some of the mistakes you said? So that's interesting. Having that conversation in the case of where a lease is coming up within a 6 to 1 year period.
Right.
What mistakes do you see small business owners making when it's time for a lease renewal or asking for a new lease? And then bring it also into the context of with a pandemic COVID-19 happening where we don't know if something like this may happen again, where they have to shut down because of an outbreak in a particular area. It may not happen everywhere, but it could happen in a zip code where they
Right.
have to for a week. What are some of the mistakes people are making when they try to negotiate that?
So a lot of small business up front, it's not their world to think about the landlord's shoes. But at the end of the day, it is very tough for a landlord to fill an empty spot. There are costs to if you were a pizza store and you're moving and now the landlord wants a call it a hair salon in there, they've got to reconfigure the space. They have to market it, and then they have to give the new tenant a reason to move in, such as free paint, free carpet, or a spruce up allowance, if you will. On the other hand, if a tenant just stays, that saves them a lot of money and a lot of headaches. A tenant has a lot of leverage to stay. So the first mistake is not asking for what they deserve to save the landlord a headache. And the second, you mentioned now that we have a pandemic world going forward, flexibility for any small business is going to be key. Instead of committing to a 5 year, we're going to see a lot more 3 year commitments because we're going to want the ability to get out sooner and with less headaches. Look for more termination penalties. Maybe, hey, if something comes up, I give you 6 months notice, Mr. Landlord, and I want to be out of here. And maybe a year ago, that'd be a harder push, but everyone at that table is going to understand what just happened. And with again, we have common sense. That yes, we can put in a termination penalty into a lease going forward.
Frank, do you see a difference between maybe retail, office space, manufacturing space? Do you see a difference in those industries where there may be more leverage in one than in another?
In the past, absolutely. A retail, the dentist in the center, his practice is there, his clients are there. He's maybe done the braces for all 3 kids and their mom.
Right.
He's going to be there. Whereas office, if I especially going forward, more people are working from home. An office tenant may not be as inclined to stay in that place for 10 years that they've been because now half their guys and gals can work from home, and if there's a cheaper spot down the road
Hmm.
that satisfies their post COVID requirements, it could be free game. Again, existing landlord doesn't want that to happen, so we can ask for a better reason to keep that small business in their current building.
There's something interesting. So when we work with business owners and we look at their lease very often, we get a good sense of what the price per square foot is for a particular retail spot or office spot. So we kind of know what the norms are.
Right.
But when those numbers came up, it was baked into an assumption of for a restaurant space that might be 1,400 square feet versus 2,800. How many people fit in there, therefore how much revenue you can generate at space. And a lot of commercial real estate, the value of it is based on the income it can produce.
Correct.
If for a period of time, folks are required to social distance in their place, so 40, how does that impact the price that a landlord can expect for the same space in new leases?
So I think we're going to see. So you cut out for a bit. How are we going to see the price for space be affected because basically the whole game's changed? So
Yep.
I'll harken back onto my original point of shorter term, a 3-year commitment versus a 5. The thing is, we don't know the true appetite for the consumer to come back to these public spaces. Are they going to all of a sudden fill up, a J. Alexander's dining room again? Probably not. It's going to be more of a trickle. And same thing for an office. Is everyone going to run back into their dense open office space? We're probably going to return back in phases. I mentioned this because we don't know what sales are going to look like in a post-COVID world, what dining out percent demographics are going to look like. And you do not want to be locked into a rate that escalates for 5 years when we don't return to pre-COVID levels for a while, and all of a sudden your rent's gone up 3 times.
But that's one thing that I'm curious about, because if a business was generating a certain amount of revenue per month for the last 5 years in a space, and not because of anything the business did, but
You froze up, Karl, a little bit.
I might have cut out. Okay, where folks might have to today, in the last 5 years, they were generating a certain amount of revenue.
Right.
And because of the laws, they now have to cut the amount of people they can service, whatever the business is.
Right.
So let's be reality of it. If rents stay at the same level and revenue, the volume goes down, all of these businesses, and it's not just one, many businesses able to sustain the same rent levels. And it's okay to keep it that way, but a lot of businesses will probably fail in that model if they do that. If someone was signing a new lease, do you think that there'll be a drag on the price per square foot if this continues on too long?
I absolutely believe there will be a drag on price per square foot, especially in the retail world, because demand is simply not going to be there. Owners of retail establishments are going to be prudent and nervous are my 2 key words. You kind of hit it. We were doing so many sales with this much space and this many rules. We can't serve this many people, and consumers are scared. That, I would say, is 99% of a restaurant owner's mentality right now. They're not going to want to pay pre-COVID rents, and I'm not a restaurant expert. I can guarantee you the guys who are leasing these restaurant spaces probably think the exact same way, if not way more detailed on exactly what the new rent levels will be. And it's not going to be four retail centers. They're all the same rent. One restaurant's going to go in one over the other three. They're not going in either one right now at the levels because they can't afford it. And I think we will see a drag on a lot of retail rents, and especially more reason to not commit to a 5-year term during this time of uncertainty. You want to argue for flexibility, argue for a reason to get out if things turn sour, such as a pandemic, which no one would have seen before this time.
I was thinking about the everything's location, 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 right?
Right.
So the place where a restaurant might be, that might have been a hole in the wall place or something like that, where they have to be found. I could see those going low. Um, I could see sometimes certain areas, like let's say prime downtown areas, they're holding their strength a little bit because there's still people there, right? Cousins is opening up 20 malls. By the end of the month, they'll have 20 malls reopened, I should say, across the
Yeah,
country.
let's say no new malls.
No, these are the reopening of existing malls. Like Gwinnett Place Mall, maybe where the Walking Dead is being shot or something. But I don't know how many people will actually go to these malls, and so I can see certain types of properties really losing their renters, right? And maybe does it make a difference whether it's owned by a REIT in New York or whether it's owned by a local business in Atlanta? I mean,
So I would say a little bit of both, but first and foremost depends on your relationship with your owner. I actually just read an article today. Bad Axe, one of the owners of Bad Axe, his name is Mario Zelaya.
mhm,
Um, Atlanta was one of the first locations he reopened. As you know, Georgia has pretty aggressive reopening rules.
yeah,
Um, he was able to talk to his landlord, and the conversation was pretty much the tune of, "Hey, man, this is tough for all of us. Stay safe. We'll get through this." Um, Easy landlord communication hallmarks of any relationship. Doesn't matter, if you've been paying the same guy for 10 years.
mm,
Um, and again, it's all. I mean, it's the same thing in life. You have a conversation, you open it up. If if you know you if you haven't had that relationship, or and you're not transparent with them, your landlord may not be as willing to work with you. And if you've been there forever, the owner of your building or your center recognizes your value, your tenancy, and they want they need you there as much as you need to be there. I would say it doesn't make a difference. Ownership matters. The relationship.
yeah.
If I could ask, we're talking about retail, and I'm curious of how business operations or business models are changing for office as well, because many people are being asked to work from home,
Right.
and that's been happening in some form or shape for many years. But if we see a 20-point shift in the amount of people that work home, there's not as much need for office space,
Mm.
combined with the fact that we shouldn't have people in cubicle farms as dense, where the guy next door might be coughing a lot, and all of that's going to create some dynamic. How can businesses shift the way they use their office space or models?
So I think going forward, we will not recognize the office going forward, and this pandemic expedited the timeline. We can argue that the last big change was everyone getting dense. You see the old law firm; it's all private offices, big wooden desks. You've got 10 people in a whole floor, just to be exaggerating. And then we shifted to the WeWork of the open office, where you had 10 people in 100 square feet.
Mhm.
Um, I think this is going to spur a move back towards less dense. Social distancing will be implemented in the office, where different teams have their own section. So if one gets sick, everyone goes home and they're 6 feet apart. And this will be a great time for a business owner to reevaluate how much space they need, because you may have figured out that your sales team can do a lot more at home than you previously thought. You may have discovered that, hey, my top two engineers only need to come in twice a week. They don't need their whole wing. Um,
Employees will love to hear that, but I'm wondering how do we resuscitate all the managers that you just put into cardiac arrest, where they can't walk down the hall and see all their people huddled over a computer looking
Let,
busy.
let's even stop there for a second because I saw something come across the news, and Kemp has extended the state of emergency, public state of emergency, through until the middle of June, and is extending the stay at home for certain populations. So just to let you know,
Well, see,
different
yeah,
than it was yesterday or
we're
this.
breaking news and impact the conversation.
Yes.
Fantastic. Well, so with that in mind, I think it's just going to emphasize that a
Yeah.
work from home policy is now going to be essential to any company going forward, whether that is a Zoom check in, whether
Mhm.
it's a phone call, whether it's just an email conversation. How are you doing on your projects? But now again, we have another month and a half to ensure people are being productive. And and maybe we have another podcast where we determine how these digital check-ins happened. But at the end of the day, either teams figure out how to work from home for extended period of time, or things may not get done, and that's just not ideal for anybody.
I've been listening to some companies that have been putting out if your work can be done from home, then you need to do it at home
Right.
because they're going to fear. Right, the news is all talking about fearing people going back to work, being forced to go quote forced to go back to work because it's open, right? And stay at home is gone. That means you should be able to go back. So liability. Where do you put the kids? Kids are out of school. There's no summer camps. All these aspects. Even if you go back to work, how are you going to deal with the individual office spaces and the common areas?
Right.
The kitchen areas and all that. So I mean, it's going to be a mess. No.
So we've actually we're working on the reentry guide, reentering the workplace, and got a couple. One of the main points we hit on is beefing up your office's cleaning schedule. Common areas like you mentioned, the lunchroom. You may have to start your cleaning expense may go up twice as much. Having someone come in and disinfect doors, refrigerators, tables, chairs, people touch. That's now our new normal.
Yeah.
I could see. I don't know if you've ever got into some workspaces that don't have touchless toilet flushers and sinks, and obviously it's gone everywhere. But you go into them now, and you got to wonder what's going on.
Right.
There's technology that can be played or force a shift, and I'm wondering businesses that are in that market, implementing those things, might be seeing some demand coming be as you people don't want to touch things, and we have to start figuring out ways to exist in this new world, in space.
So besides the obvious one of toilet paper, I would say uh, everything digital. The companies Zoom, WebEx, and like you mentioned, touchless technology, doors that open motion sensing doors, all retrofitting companies to make this workspace healthier.
Mhm.
I feel like those will see demand all over the place. It's interesting. I was chatting with a lady who's one of her biggest clients is Home Depot's paint department, and they've been going crazy because a lot of people are home. What are they doing? Home improvement projects. And
Yep.
um, she was actually in a place up in Cumberland, and the space next to her was empty, and they do a lot of on-site training. And we were having a conversation that they may want to look at that space just used for a training room, training employees. They're one of the bigger offices in Atlanta. 2 months have gone by, business is booming. They're training companies on Zoom. Now all of a sudden they found out they can do more with less, and it's just that's one of the countless examples that
Yeah.
changes. This is just expedited change. It's
I,
accelerated.
I work at a newspaper in Sandy Springs, and same thing. We put out two papers, all online, And so his 1,500 square feet will probably drop down to maybe 700 square feet.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're going to save a lot of money that you can now put towards other avenues of your business.
Yeah.
What just out of curiosity, now that you're reducing your rent expense by half, what are you going to invest in, or what are some wish list items for the newspaper?
Well, see, now there's the problem, though, right? It is a newspaper and it's sort of an industry. Now, my magazine works out fine because of where we are, but some publications are falling by the wayside.
Right.
Neighbor newspapers out in DeKalb and Marietta, they might as well close up. I think the last issue was 6 pages. So, I mean, they just might as well close. Some other publications are doing their stuff, but even online, Curb Atlanta,
Yeah.
I think people know curb.com. Well, every city sort of has their own curbatlanta.com. Curb Atlanta let go of all its people, from what I understand. So even
Wow.
online companies are seeing this issue. So it's
So it's interesting, Rico. You mentioned about location, location, location when we talk real estate. That has been the paradigm for as long as I've known anyone in. So think about office building. If you're a fancy law firm, where do you want to be? You want to be in Midtown
right.
on 14th Street. If you're retail, you want the Apple Store. The Apple stores are only located in high dense retail areas, type of thing. Is there a shift that this may be accelerating, where location
Is probably not as important.
put on businesses as the premium that's put on businesses for location now shifts to something else? And I don't know if you've heard of the building The Edge in the Netherlands. It is the greenest building in the world, but what it highlights is a technologically advanced building that has sensors everywhere. And what they built was a building where you want to be there because technology drives the value of the business, the building, and more than the physical location. And so I could see, and I know the technology exists. I've seen it. You've seen it in movies where
With the
you
technology.
you can measure the temperature of people in the room down to the individual. You see it in the movies when they see the hot spot and they drop the bomb on that place with 12 people, and you can see, well, that technology is not that difficult to deploy in building. So if a co-worker's temperature is up 3 degrees, there might be a way to indicate that room may have a problem.
Yes.
What do you think about investing in these technologies
In these
and for
technologies.
those types of things in place?
Investing in, you cut out there for a bit, investing in these technologies.
Yeah, to attract new tenants. Landlords have been living on location,
Right.
and now the question is, do they have to shift and shift their business model to leverage technology that now addresses safety as part of
So
occupancy?
I primarily think for the retail and the industrial worlds, it's still going to primarily be location. You're going to put, example, Amazon last mile distribution centers.
Mhm.
They're going to base that decision on location. The Apple Store, they're still going to want to be in a high traffic area. Office sector, I think you hit on it. We're talking about the edge. It's not. It's going to Location will lose importance. It's not going to be about where the space is and how big it is, but the quality. There's going to be an emphasis on quality. Um, two big reasons that just pop into my head. One, everyone's going to want it to be clean. Everyone's going to want it to be sterile. Everyone's going to have social distancing. These self-opening doors. That's going to be on the forefront of anybody who goes into the office a lot. Two, I think overall, we're gonna see less people going to the office as much. Not drastically, but over time, there will be less people going to the office 9 to 5, given what happened. So you're not going to need as much people in there. But when they do go in there, what are they gonna want? They're gonna want the AC to change depending on how many people are in the room.
Mm.
They're going to want the Internet of Things to know. Oh, Carl's here at 8:30. He likes his latte at 8:45 delivered from the Insight Starbucks. Carl, would you text your phone? Would you like your Starbucks? Yes or no? Rico and Carl are in a meeting with three people. Um, we don't need the AC running on full blast because it's a conference room for 10. We only have three in there. Internet of Things recognizes that from your Outlook calendar. This technology is there. Um, and again, this will just only expedite it and going forward. People will want better, safer, more technologically advanced space as opposed to the location premium.
It's funny when you think of Tesla, for example, right? The big one of the biggest things in there that they talk about is the filtration system in Teslas. That it's actually better than, let's say, N95. You could be, if there's something outside the car and you close yourself in, you would be safe from it, right? Because of the filtration system on it. Um, these going to be, and they're working with, I think it's ResMed now to make those filtrate the what do you call it, the ventilators. They're
Right.
working
Mhm.
with a company doing that. That's based out of Atlanta, I think. But I agree with you, Frank. There will be changes and stuff, but I think it also depends on what that business in specific is, right? If you're a
So
service business that you could do anywhere, that makes less of a big deal where you're geographically. Like you said, if you're an Amazon and you're that last mile fulfillment, certainly you want to be near transportation, likely a hub like Atlanta, if not a micro. Yeah.
to take a step back, I just remembered. So I'm sure, are y'all familiar with the LEED certification system for buildings?
Yep.
Yes. Sure.
How energy efficient something is. There's LEED Gold, LEED Platinum. There's also, I think we will see an explosion. There's a relatively younger standard. It's called the WELL building standard,
Hmm.
and it basically rates how healthy a building is for its employees. Things, how much natural light are buildings getting? What's the fitness center like? How many times is the air changed? I think we will see that explode, and that will take a larger spotlight in decisions going forward. You know, maybe only the Tesla health advocates knew about how many air changes per 1,000 people were happening on a floor. That, I think, stuff like that will start to take a major spotlight.
There might be one other interesting thing when you talk about technology, especially mobile technology. All the apps that allow you to check into a location, or you walk into a store and it sends you a coupon to your phone, tracks your Bluetooth. Um, I could see that being used in a different application now. If a salon has a customer that 5 days later tests positive for COVID-19, they have the ability to know everyone that came into that salon. It could be as simple as there is a credit card transaction to more sophisticated where you walk into some businesses or gyms and you literally have to check in with an ID or your phone. So it knows you were there and it can go and identify all 300.
That's almost like those gyms, right? With the passes that you go in
With the
24 hours.
passive, exactly.
Yeah.
So contact tracing could become easier because you could find and message 350 people that have been in that space or interacted with somebody from the time the person that tested positive, and they can get a notification to go to their testing center and get tested and self isolate. Now, that technology exists. Small business owners are thinking about that. But I could think of some companies, point of sale companies, others that could diverge into these areas and offer this to give clients comfort, customers comfort that there's something that's helping control this as they go into space.
Do you, Frank? Do you see? I can see that, and I can. You're familiar with like Simply Safe and the Nest thermostats and stuff like that, right?
Right,
Smart technology.
right.
All those are plug and play pretty much in a home. I mean, I can also see maybe commercial space being like that, right? Because a lot of that is plug and play. A lot of that doesn't cost a lot of money because it's either using Bluetooth or Wi-Fi technology to communicate and modularize and put into different rooms in an office suite.
Right.
I mean,
We, we were seeing some of this technology at Smart Expo last year.
Yes.
Um, they're putting the sensors in lights
Yeah, and they're
and
going to be coming back at some
something.
point this year too. The Smart Expo.
I haven't seen it in person, but the most common that I've read about is it's a sensor in your employee ID badge. You know, the one that you use to get off. You swipe in the elevator, it takes you to your floor, and
Right.
then you buzz that in to get into if your
Yeah.
office has a security system. And there's sensors that know, this is Karl's workplace. This is Karl has an appointment at 3, and again, the sensors know how many people are in a conference room, the lunchroom at any given time. Maybe we get to that to where it's on your phones as well.
Well, I've got a question that comes back to dealing with the current state that folks are going. I've heard of some cities
Right.
partnering with major landlords um, where landlords that give deferral get some kind of recognition and or benefit for that. Have you seen that, and can you describe how that really works?
Right. For two, real close to us, Sandy Springs and Peachtree Corners. So I get their alerts all the time, just trying to stay connected. And Peachtree Corners was offering, for any landlord that offered their tenants a 60-day rent deferral, a free showcase as a community partner. Really, they get better advertising opportunities, just really a focus on you helping the city, helping these businesses survive and thrive during these tough times. And for um, Sandy Springs Perimeter Chamber was offering a free advertising slot for Mother's Day specials during this crisis. I mean, Mother's Day is right around the corner. These days all blur together, and that's typically that's a big sales event for some companies. And these are just few of the examples of a lot of people, a lot of companies, landlords, cities, all coming together to try to make things happen during this tough time.
Guys, I think we're towards the end of our time together. Karl, did you want to?
Yep, absolutely. Well, I want to thank you so much, Frank, for joining us today and sharing some of your knowledge about real estate and how to deal with tenants and landlords. Really helpful information to do that. How would people reach out if they wanted to ask you questions? What's the best way to get in contact with you and learn more?
Honestly, I would say just shoot me a text or email me. So I'm frank.cannon@colliers.com. And then, shoot me a text at 404-597-5737. If it's anything from, hey, my lease is coming up in 3, 5, 6 months. I don't want to leave, but I'm not sure what to do to make a decision going forward. Or if you might be struggling for May or June rent. This is a headache. This is a time suck for a lot of business owners who have a million things to worry about right now. And for us, this is our job, and it's a free service for tenants to occupy space. Just give us a shout, and let's have a conversation. We'll negotiate with your landlord on your behalf and see what we can do to get through this together.
Thank you so much for that. And we do recommend get in touch with real estate professionals if you don't know how to negotiate with your landlord. But it's as simple as picking up the phone and having a conversation. You're both in
Right.
partnership. You both got to work through this together, and you got to figure because you're typically in a contract for a number of years. I'm Karl Barham with Transworld Business Advisors of Atlanta Peachtree. We're working a lot with business owners in this time to help them figure out ways and strategies to continue to improve their business and help think about different scenarios and where they may want to exit the business. Right now, it's about surviving, but it is the best time to start planning on your exit strategy for your business. And you can contact me at 770-768-7685 766-9855 or kbarham@tworld.com if you want to talk to myself or one of our other advisors to help you navigate through this and talk about your exit. Rico, how about yourself? What do you got coming up in these upcoming months?
Sure. So we're actually working on the next issue of Peachtree Corners magazine, the June-July issue. It's going to be chock full of a lot of stuff in there dealing with what's going on now, some great stories that we're going to be telling about what people are doing during this COVID-19, how they're repositioning themselves a little bit during this time, because a lot of people are just home. Not that they're not doing anything. We all should be teleworking, right? But some people are just pivoting if they own their own business or they're doing a gig economy and they're trying to figure out what to do with that. So the magazine will be coming out the first week in June, I believe, is the way we've said it. And if me personally also doing Mighty Rockets in social media and podcast, I'm doing a lot more podcasting with Karl and a bunch of other people, doing a lot of branding, a lot of online social media, and a lot of video work, doing it socially safe. So if you need me, mightyrockets.com, if you need anyone to help you with production or social media content or branding. Or you can call me or text me 678-358-7858. So here we go.
Well, thank you so much, Rico and Frank. Really appreciate you joining us and give us some really good tips and insights that hopefully
Hopefully we'll be there at some point.
the business owners reach out.
It was great. Thank you again for having me.
Thank you, Karl. And thank you.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Bye.